Hi, thank you for being here. I am Maria Mandarino. I am here today with Julie Jacobs again. We are working on the series about the Enneagram types and how they deal with narcissists, how they experience that. So Julie, I'd like you to introduce yourself first for people that haven't watched prior episodes.
Sure. My name is Julie. I'm a therapist at Windhorse Counseling in Chandler, Arizona. I have been in private practice for 11 years now, something like that. Um, and I love what I do. The name Windhorse comes from the mythical creature that helps people carry themselves until they can do it on their own. And that's what I'm here to do, give you a hand until you can do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. So, and the reason that we're doing this series together is, as a spiritual director, I'm completely out of my lane talking about narcissists, and I really feel I'm just very serious about the fact that somebody else has to handle that piece of an important topic. So, speaking of which, we're going to focus on Enneagram 8s today and how they deal with narcissists. So, I'm going to hand that back over to you to talk about the considerations for people if they are an 8, or anybody really dealing with a narcissist. Just kind of give people the rundown of how
sure.
they should know when to get help.
Okay. So narcissists lack empathy, right? They take all the oxygen in the room. They are very manipulative. They need to have control. They do a lot of gaslighting, a lot of, oftentimes it's very subtle and covert, and it doesn't happen from the get go. So people get drawn in and sucked in, and before you know it, you're sort of trapped with these people. So the thing that I encourage people is if it feels like it's dangerous, if you feel like you're not sure what to do or what to say, get help.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
even even if you think you got this, get some help, get some support, because most of us, um, when we're in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, a work relationship, we often don't see it. You got to be outside of it to really see it clearly. We might have some, I think they're sort of a narcissist,
Mhm.
which is a big buzzword right now. Um, but get some help and get some feedback on, are you really experiencing a narcissist, or just someone with a few narcissistic tendencies, or are you overreacting, right? Because that can be a thing too.
Yeah.
So I absolutely, if someone makes your hair stand up, if someone gives you that feeling, talk about it to somebody and talk about it with somebody who can give you some insight and be objective.
Yeah.
Sometimes our best friends are not the people who can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. The way I go at it, as a spiritual director, even as an acupuncturist, I'm looking at the energy. If you feel like you're losing energy, if you're, gaining energy, you kind of know it's not that. But if you feel you're losing energy, that's something to look at. So things like this video are helpful in getting people to become aware, but beyond that, getting help is so important, especially with the type that we're going to talk about today. So Enneagram Type 8s, I'm actually going to read something from Beatrice Chestnut, this book here, The Complete Enneagram. It's a little description about what the 8 is about. We're going to go deeper into that. But she says type 8 represents the archetype of the person who denies weakness and vulnerability by taking refuge in fearlessness, power, and strength. This archetype tends to express instinctual drives in a less inhibited way and to push back on whatever might restrict them. Okay, that's the basic flavor of the 8's energy. So Julie's smiling. We were chatting earlier that a lot of times, and we're not here to diagnose the narcissist. It's not the role of what we're doing here. But a lot of times, the narcissist can, whether they lead with 8 or not, they can bring some serious 8 energy into the room. So I know you were smiling. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
It's the passage that you just read. It's so evident to me that it is about, this is someone who is not going to respect your boundaries.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And
An unhealthy 8.
an
Yeah.
unhealthy 8. Yes, it's someone who
Yeah.
is not going to respect your boundaries.
Yeah.
And that should be a huge red flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you have a question about that, you can test that pretty easily. So let's say an 8 is a friend of mine and says, hey, I was thinking we could go to dinner Tuesday for pizza. And I could say, Tuesday's great, but I don't want pizza, and see how they respond.
Uh-huh.
Or I could say, oh, can't do it Tuesday, but I could go Thursday, and see how they respond.
Yeah.
If they are someone who is unwilling to compromise,
They may be an 8.
they may be
Maybe a low 8.
or they may be someone who just doesn't respect boundaries, or they
Right.
may be someone who
Right.
is all about me, 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 me.
Right.
And I think those are good things to find out.
Yeah, and that's the motivation piece of the energy, and that's why we're not looking at really what's going on with the narcissists themselves, but it's a curiosity, for me certainly, because everybody's going to have 9 different motivations for why they don't want to have pizza on Tuesday.
Right.
So that's, but if it's big and it's large, whatever is going on, if it's big and it's large, it could have some 8 energetics, tied to that. So I am going to share my screen and list some of the focuses of type 8. Okay. So, as we've mentioned, type 8 is focused on power and control. Their focus is on ensuring that there is competent authority handling whatever is going on. Their focus is on protecting those who are weak, not those who they perceive as weak, because that's different. But if someone is genuinely weak and someone genuinely needs support, their focus is on protecting them. They can have a my way or the highway approach to life. And they are very fixated on seeking justice. So if we have a healthy 8 now, who is encountering a narcissist. So before we even go there, the idea of power and control is to ensure that they're not vulnerable, because for an 8, being vulnerable is dangerous. That's how that's where they will lose their energy. So instead of being vulnerable, their focus is on being powerful and controlling. So Julie, jump in and tell us what it might look like when this 8 is in a room that a narcissist just walked into.
Oh, well, I think that the type 8 person who's living on their high side, right? That's the phraseology. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So someone who's in their high side
Oops, sorry.
is definite imbalance, is definitely not going to get sucked into that narcissist thing, depending on how I would say intuitive and feeling they are, how much they are in that space or have that ability to be. My guess is they will sense those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, it's, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to protect the weak? Be a barrier? Are you going to stand firm in your power? Or are you going to attack that person? Attacking a narcissist is never a good idea.
Yeah. So why?
Because it's all about power.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to lead with power, they're going to come right back at you with power, and they don't play nice.
Right.
They're also so manipulative, and they're real good at what we call gaslighting.
Yeah.
Making you think it's your fault. And if you're both coming at it from a place of power and control and needing to prove you're right.
Yeah.
When someone is real good at gaslighting and manipulating, they're going to pull you out of the actual argument. So if you're talking about if the sky is blue or not, they're going to tell you about, well, there's a cloud up there. And now we've derailed from what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So don't engage is the best way, right? Because they're going to suck your energy or feed off of your energy or take your energy into a negative space as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
keeping, I won't say calm, but keeping you grounded and in control.
Yeah. So for the 8, that can look like explosiveness. And that's where and that's why I wanted you to mention that in the beginning about getting help and knowing when you are in, I don't mean to say over your head, but when you need support, because the 8s are going to bring this large, controlling, domineering, you're cornering them, they're feeling vulnerable, you're unstable, they feel that, they don't like that, and it can go kaboom like that. Because it's going to go to the low side of their type. Even though it may all be with the best of intentions, as in, protecting someone who's weak.
Absolutely.
And I think it could just be dangerous.
I do too.
Yeah.
Because I think that a type 8 is probably pretty likely to take the bait in an
Yes.
aggressive way,
Yeah.
in a protective way,
Yep.
and you're just pouring gasoline on an already blown up fire.
Yeah. Now, in your estimation, how good are narcissists at reading the personality? So do they get a good pulse on?
This is something that I wondered about. I think that as a rule they do, because they don't tend to go after someone who is strong in their space.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
But I don't know that it's a conscious thing, right? I think
Uh-huh.
it's more just probably a gut feel, or
Yeah.
they, like kids, they'll test the boundaries, they'll test the waters, they'll see how far they can go. And once they find someone that they can push with, they'll just keep pushing.
Yeah.
They find someone who has lots and lots of empathy, probably not this person
Yeah.
in that same way.
Mhm.
That's the one
Yeah.
that they're really going to go,
Yeah.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
how to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Right.
there's some types that they'll just veer toward more and probably not as many 8s.
That'd be
So
my
yeah,
guess.
mine too. So well, let me hop over to the, let's hop over to the diagram. Okay. Okay. So 8s we all have options. So 8s have a line to 5, and I always, if you haven't seen me talk about this before, theoretically, 8s go to 5 when they're stressed, and theoretically, 8s take the line across to 2 when they're looking to attain something, when they're in their security energy. So I have seen 8s do this, where they'll withdraw, retreat. So 5 is the observer, 8's the protector. I have seen 8s go to 5 and pace. Fairly evolved 8s. Pace, circle, literally like physically circle like an animal, trying to check out and it's obvious because they're a body type, right? So there's a physicality to how they'll pace and they'll circle and you know that something's churning in them, but they won't tell you. But it's like that, what I said about that pulse, like what kind of a pulse does a narcissist get off of an 8? So let's say the 8 goes to the low side of 5. What's that going to look like with the narcissist? So moody, kind of, just gut hunches and feeling invaded and times a little disrespected. They don't like being encroached upon. Good idea, bad idea?
It just is.
Mm.
I don't know that it is good or bad, right? I
Mm.
think it depends on what you do with that information.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is good to go to the head place because then you're more in the thinking space. You're not feeling it as much in your body because right? The 8 is power and control,
Yeah.
protecting others. And if you are in that headspace, so when you said about pacing, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm seeing a panther, like
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
walk and like sizing it all up and
Hmm.
reading the room and reading the people,
Yeah.
right? Which is feels kind of predatory when you're thinking about a narcissist.
Mm.
But if you're thinking about someone who's protecting others from a narcissist or protecting themselves from a narcissist, that feels brilliant to me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're not engaging until you really know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that that's a good place to be. I
Yeah.
think that going to the heart space
Dangerous.
is a little
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And that would
because the
be
heart
that
of a
too.
narcissist is a wounded child. So
Yeah.
if you can stay out of your heart space, you don't see
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that.
So the high side of that 5 would be the observer, the omniscient person who can just see everything for what it is and not take it to any particular place. So again, I'm going to say,
Gathering information.
yeah, yeah, and just holding it,
Uh-huh.
not making decisions about it, not having an opinion about it. It's just I've culled all the facts here, all the facts that I can observe.
Yep.
Better idea
Yeah.
than okay. All right. So if you can hold it and just remain neutral, observe it, collect the information, get the facts, observe what you can, and keep it in neutrality. You're still kind of in a headspace.
Because you're not engaging.
Yeah.
The person who doesn't engage has the power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's a really important thing for 8 to remember
Yeah. Yeah.
when you
Because 8 wants to go in. Yeah.
when you
Mhm.
when you avoid engaging, when
Yeah.
you choose to stay in that space, right? Let's
Right.
put it in words that are going to appeal to the 8.
Right.
Stay in that space where you're accumulating information.
Yeah.
Stay in that space where you're analyzing and
Right.
ferreting out all of it.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
stay there. You are staying in power and control.
Yeah. That's it. The power for the 5 is information.
Uh-huh.
Information is going to keep you safe, right?
Right.
So yeah, you're still in power as an 8, but it's not that I'm going to go in there and wrestle it and put this whole problem to rest. If you go there, you're probably going to have more of what you don't want. So if 8 goes to 2, so this is the highly evolved 8 who can give from their heart, from their powerful abundance, from their powerfully abundant heart, and they become a 2. My concern would be around that as much as an 8 going to a low 8. Either one of those would concern me. And it's what you said, it's being in the heart space.
Yeah.
That's exactly, I think, what the narcissist is hoping to find.
100%.
Yeah. 2s are seriously on their radar. So that's not, if you have that in your 8, if you're, that's your way toward attainment, and if you find that you can easily get to that too, and you've got a narcissist in your life, bring your awareness around to the fact that you also have access to a 5.
Yeah.
There's not just one way. There's not just one road here. So, all right. So I'm going to hop back to my slides and bear with me. All right, I'm gonna do that, and then I think that's the focus. And it was the limiting beliefs that we were gonna also talk about. So again, power, no, I'm in the wrong place. Limiting beliefs, play comment slide. There we go. Okay. So the challenger, the protector, same words for the 8. And these are slides from my the course that's going to be coming up a little later this summer. So the world is an unjust place. Hang on a minute, let me just get my getting out of here. The world is an unjust place, and those with power take advantage of the weak. Again, these are the limiting. This is a low 8. This is how they're wired to think. So the world is an unjust place with those, and those with power take advantage of the weak. In this case, those with power could be how the narcissist is presenting. I, as an 8, must be strong to retain power and gain respect to protect myself and others who are not strong. Being vulnerable is dangerous and feels like death to me. So here's where, if you've not done your work as an 8, or something's got you triggered and you've done plenty of work, we all get triggered and we can still go to these limiting beliefs. If you go to any of these places, and you're human, and we do, but if you go to any of these places, this is where you're going to lose ground. This is where you're going to lose energy.
There's another thing I see here,
Mm-hmm.
and that is, if you are an 8 and you go to these places,
Mm-hmm.
you have the potential to be the narcissist.
Ooh. Yeah.
Because that's one of the underlying thoughts is the world is unjust.
Yeah.
It is not fair.
Yeah.
I'm vulnerable. Everybody's going to take advantage of me, so I'm going to get mine before someone else does.
Yeah. I mean, there's a wounded child and all of that. Yeah. So how easy is it for that to happen to an 8 who's stuck in limiting beliefs? Like, is that a moment, or can that be the beginning of a bad trend to look out for?
I think it could be either. I think it's what you do with that, right?
Yeah.
If you have
Yeah.
that moment and you have some self-awareness to go, whoa, whoa, like I
Yeah. Okay.
don't feel good being that person. Like what's
Yeah.
going on here? What's my motivation? What's my intention?
Yeah.
Right? If my
Mm-hmm.
intention is I got to figure out how to protect myself, that's not necessarily narcissistic, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if my intention is, oh no, I'm lashing out at everybody else so that I don't get hurt,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it is a thing to be aware of for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, is what are my beliefs? Is it that the world is unjust? Is it that I have to be the strong one all the time? Is it
Mhm.
I can't ever be vulnerable? That's someone that's really hard to be in a relationship with.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. And 8s can, because their energy is large, limiting beliefs can get larger.
Mm.
So yeah, just being, and again, bringing it back to the energy, and where do you feel like you're losing life force?
Right.
And when you lose your life force, or some of your life force, or is it leaving a window open for some of these ideas to be playing in your head? Because the one thing that you want to do is not give up energy. I don't care what type you are. You don't want to give up energy to a narcissist. So, and this is right where you can do it, and get sucked in, and yeah, take on that energy. I didn't even think of that part, but yeah, taking on the energy of a narcissist as well. And then you've got 2 wounded children in the room. So yeah. All right. So I think that just about wraps it up for type 8. They are the ones that I worry about least, and then in some ways worry about the most.
Right. Like it's a blessing and a curse
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
to have those things,
Yeah.
because man, when it's channeled for good and when
Mm-hmm.
you're at the high side, you are strong, you are in power,
Yeah.
you are in your body, you are in your
Yeah.
feels, your head and your body, and everything's sort of balanced. But
Mm-hmm.
man, if that goes
Yeah.
awry, that's a
Yeah.
whole lot of
Mm-hmm.
I can feel that energy, and I don't
Yeah.
engage.
Yeah. And
Not
I think,
anymore.
yeah, and I think the other thing, and you tell me if I'm right on this, but we talked the last time about you never get the narcissist making a phone call to have a session with you. It's always
Never.
the person who's dealing with the narcissist.
So unless they make the phone call to have a session with me to tell me about how the other person
Oh, is the
does
problem for them.
this. Narcissists don't go to therapy because they don't
Right,
need therapy.
right.
Narcissists go to
Yeah,
therapy to find out how they should behave so
yeah,
that they can be better, more
yeah,
covert
yeah,
narcissists,
yeah, yeah.
or they go to therapy to point out all the flaws of the other
Yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah. But my guess is if you have an 8 out of all the 9 types who's in this battle with a narcissist and their buttons are getting pushed, my guess is they'd be the last of the 9 types to make an appointment for therapy. They just try to handle it.
Probably.
Yeah, because they
But
have this energy.
they're probably also most likely to avoid it.
Okay, I was going to say they're likely most likely to need the pointers is what I'm thinking.
Oh, I definitely think that.
Yeah.
But I also think that they're probably the least likely to be manipulated.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Unless they spend a lot of time in 2. Or potentially a lot of time in the low part of 5, because then the narcissist can get into this.
Yeah.
Then you got 2 people living in there. But yeah, but because they're so used to just taking it on, whatever it is, handling it, being in control, being the leader, I would think they're probably least likely to look for help and probably most likely to benefit from it. I mean, everybody can certainly benefit from it when you're dealing with a narcissist, especially, but yeah, I think they might have more light bulb moments.
Yes.
Because for the 8, there's only that one, I don't even say the one way to deal with it, but it's step into it. And I think that's also the temptation for an 8 that's not paying attention, because 8s like you to meet them in a challenge, a hard discussion. Like the worst thing you can do to an 8, if they are not really self-aware, is not answer them. It makes them crazy, because they want relationship to them is button heads. That's not a bad thing to an to an 8 who really doesn't understand their Enneagram. But so yeah, that's because they face life that way. I think going into therapy to deal with a narcissist can really be an education in how to not only do it this way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes. All righty. So anything that you need to add or want to add about the 8?
I don't think so. I think blessing and a curse is
Yeah.
where to go with that. Like
Yeah.
you could be really, really strong and empowered. You could
Mhm.
also be volatile.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
also just escalate it very
Yeah.
much, right?
Yeah.
The one thing, and I might be totally wrong, it just occurred to me, is when you were asking if a type 8 is in a relationship with a narcissist, would they be likely to get help or not?
Mhm.
I see a type 8 who's in their high side as being someone who's more likely to walk away from
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So, but that, I don't know. I think it depends on the person, right? Everybody's
Mhm.
different
Yeah. Yeah.
and previous experiences. But if you can stay in that space of, I'm not engaging, this doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're good.
Mhm.
But if you are someone who goes, ooh, challenge accepted, I'm gonna show them,
Yeah.
that's
That's a problem.
you're not gonna win there, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
both not gonna win.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Right.
winning.
Right.
And nobody's gonna want to be around that. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's just me, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I know it's a good point. As far as everybody being different, I should point out that if you have an 8 with a 9 wing, right? So peacemaker energy versus 8 with a 7 wing, which is the epicure and wants to experience all new opportunities. That, when you say everybody's different, indeed, yeah. So different 8s can, 7 wing versus a 9 wing can look very different. subtypes, which we're not going to get into today, but there are 3 subtypes, so they're kind of 3 shades of an 8 as well. So yeah, it's not just that 8 label. The 8 label is just kind of where we begin to understand and develop awareness of the personality. So yeah, all of that factors in. And the more we know those pieces of ourselves, the more we have to work with. So yeah.
Oh, spoken like someone who might know a lot about 5s, just accumulating information. The more you know.
Well, yeah, that is my superpower. Yeah,
I
funny.
like that. Superpower. That is exactly the right word. We all have a superpower.
Yes, and it's also our Achilles heel, so
Uh-huh.
it's not just that. So yeah, I think that wraps it up pretty well for the 8. I agree with the blessing and the curse. The ones I don't worry about at all, or worry about the most.
Uh-huh.
So and if you're dealing with the with a narcissist, definitely get some help. Don't just try to do it on yourself, no matter what type you are. But and Julie, tell us how people can find you. I'm going to put all this in the show notes as well, but how can people find you?
You can go to my website, windhorsecounseling.com.
Mhm.
You can call me at 480-459-9994. I try to make calls back in 24 hours, and I'm not always successful. So have some patience with me, or send me an email at windhorsecounseling@outlook.com. Sometimes that's faster for me to respond.
Yeah, yeah. And you have a project coming up with a group that you're.
I do. We have some groups that we're looking at putting together. One is called Adulting. One is called Boundaries, which I think is very, very helpful for everybody, but also in, dealing with narcissists.
Yeah.
Keep
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what you need to do to keep your energy,
Mm-hmm.
and not taking on other people's stuff. We're also looking at doing some book studies, and
Nice.
yeah, I think so. And that will be more of a casual thing. We're looking at probably a Friday lunch hour thing, that it would be potentially a drop-in, and we will list which books we'll be doing. But with all the excitement about narcissists and all of this stuff, I'm really leaning towards one of those kinds of books
Good.
right
Good. That's
now.
good.
But always open to suggestions.
Mhm. Nice. Nice.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in working with me, mariamandarino.com. By the time this airs, I will have a new scheduling system online, so you can just schedule there. And that's all for today. So thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. We're going to be moving into the heart types with the next video, and we'll be starting with Enneagram Type 2, the giver. So looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.